Good evening and welcome to another edition of Prompt Response. I am your host, Ryan Ozzy Smith, voted #1 creamiest voice on Twitch 3 years running. I'm a voice actor and a Twitch streamer. You can find me on Twitch by searching Aussie Man Plays. I'm also your host for tonight's reading, a chapter from Bram Stoker Award finalist book Bittersweets by Angela Yuriko Smith. This story does have some elements of self-harm, graphic violence, and suicide. So if these are things you would rather not listen to, now is your time to click out. Prompt Response is sponsored by Authortunities, a weekly calendar for author opportunities. For busy writers who need to know who, how much, and when is the deadline on Substack. You can subscribe at authortunities.substack.com or follow the links in the description. And now let's begin with the first chapter of Bittersweets by Angela Yuriko Smith. If you would like to read along, the book is available on Kindle Unlimited, and the links are also in the description. To begin, let's book a stay at the Bittersweets, a hotel that specializes in renewable death experiences. Whether we schedule our demise as therapy, to bond with loved ones, or for pure recreation, our death is sure to give us a new lease on life. Renewable death is always beneficial, at least to someone. Let's explore, shall we? Bittersweets Chapter 1, Cherry Pop. It was my 18th birthday, and I was finally going to die in a safe, monitored environment. My mum freaked out, of course. They didn't have stuff like this when she was going through the angst. She couldn't understand how important it was to me. All my friends had already died once, or twice. The school counselors even said it was developmentally necessary, the earlier the better. And now here I was, ever the late bloomer. Thanks, Mum. Finally getting my first turn. I knew the Bittersweets would have everything I needed, so I rushed over after work, with only my PAL ID credit and a cherry soda. The soda was to drink in celebration after my death cherry was popped. I thought that was pretty funny. Apparently, I have a crappy sense of humor because nobody else laughed about it. That's one reason why I have so much angst. No one understands me. My mum and I argued for months, but once she knew I hit the 1 big 8, she would lose legal jurisdiction over me, and I'd be free to make my own decisions. My first, as a new adult, would be to relieve some of my blues. First time? Asked the girl behind the counter. I nodded. She smiled a distant way that clearly communicated I get paid to be interested. Didn't matter to me if she was interested or not. I was just here to get on with my life. Do you have a preferred method of death? She asked. I thought about it a lot, but I could never decide. They all sounded equally dramatic and satisfying. I was wondering if there was some kind of combination package, I asked. Maybe I can kind of start with poison, wrist cutting, and then maybe hanging? And I've thought a lot about drowning too. She raised her eyebrows at me, clearly annoyed. I can't decide. They all sound perfect. I shrugged and smiled. You can only have one death per stay, but I can arrange for a variety of methods to be available to you as a blended death. She shuffled through some papers on the desk and pulled out a glossy brochure. I leaned over the counter as she explained. I was surprised at how many ways to die there were. There were solo experiences, like I was choosing, and romantic couple deaths. There was an in-childbirth experience for new mums to help bond with their babies, an old yeller package for canine enthusiasts to bring their pets, and a whole Egyptian mummified alive package that had caught my eye in the first place. In the end, I decided to have my first death plain, so I could experience it the way it was meant to be. A Romeo and Juliet Valentine death looked awesome, though. I pointed at it. I'll be back with my girlfriend to try that one out, I told her. She just nodded and went on with her spiel. In the end, I paid a little more to have up to 4 near deaths available to me. I would start out with poison. When that kicked in, I'd slice my wrists open, flaying them lengthwise and not crosswise, as she instructed. When I had a good bleed going, I'd hang myself, but the rope would break just short of snapping my neck, so I could fall into a bathtub of water. A toaster would be set up to fall in after me, so I could be electrocuted. "That's a pretty big first death," she told me, friendlier now. "But it is your birthday. I'll throw in the finishing toaster, no charge." I grinned. I've heard one of the biggest benefits of recreational suicide was the lack of fear afterwards. The attendant was older than me by a few years, but cute. Maybe I'd be fearless enough to ask her out afterwards. After I'd signed my legals and swiped my PAL ID, she gave me my suite number, keycard, and a folded pile of terry cloth. I fumbled with my pile and dropped the keycard. The rest of what she gave me hit the ground when I bent over to retrieve the card, trying to look less awkward and failing. I picked up a bathrobe from the mess at my feet and held it out to her, eyebrows raised. "It doesn't look like you brought a change of clothes," she said. "This is a courtesy robe provided by the Bittersweets to help make your stay more enjoyable. Death can be messy, but your clothes don't have to be." She smiled brightly. "Do they ever fail to bring someone back?" I asked. I could feel the whisper of a tremble begin deep in my bowels. She looked at me for a long minute. It was long enough for me to take note of the cornflower blue of her eyes and how her long lashes began as black but faded to honey blonde at the tips. She wasn't cute at all, I decided. She was stunning. My heart did a crazy spin. "Yes, technically the resuscitators could fail," she answered finally. "But if it was a fail-safe, guaranteed bring back, wouldn't that make it less exciting?" She batted her eyelashes at me then, like a cartoon femme fatale, I swear. And here we're all about being exciting. Another tremor had started up inside me, but it had nothing to do with my experiencing my first recreational suicide. By that point, I think I'd forgotten everything but the lovely angel that was now escorting me to my destination, pressing the keycard firmly into my palm. As she guided me backwards into an elevator, she piled my towels and robe back into my arms. "Have a fun death," she said, grinning. "See you on the other side." I leaned against the back wall as the doors closed and realized I was in full crush. My face flushed, my heart raced like a scared cat, and suddenly I could care less about my impending suicide. The entire point of dying was to appreciate being alive. As I thought of the girl I just left downstairs, I realized all I wanted to do is get this over with so I could go ask her out. The elevator doors slid open, and I stepped into the hallway, clutching my towels. Signs on the wall directed me to go right to find my room number. The hall was wide and bright, thick carpet, visually screaming with garish geometric designs in orange and red, muffled my footfalls. The loud carpet contrasted with the lack of color or design anywhere else. The walls were white without texture. The doors, also white, were inset along both sides at regular intervals. Plastic squares were stuck to each door at eye level, displaying the room number. I followed along, reading door numbers to find my own. A shriek came through one of the doors as I passed, startling me. It was a woman's voice, followed by panicked sobs. "No, please, no. I've changed my mind." There was a muffled crash and a thump. I heard running footsteps and then another thump. She cried out. Her voice was rising in pitch now. "Please, no, I don't want to die, no." She shrieked again, but her voice was cut off mid-scream. There was another solid thump, and I tried to imagine what death she had chosen. I hoped I didn't chicken out like that. I listened at the door, feeling like a perv, but I couldn't leave yet. The silence was liquid, stopping my ears with quiet. My heart pounded and alert. Eavesdropper, eavesdropper, eavesdropper. My own body was intent on giving me up. After a full minute, a deep sigh came from inside the room, and then a voice. "Okay, that should do it. Let's bring her back." A second voice crackled over the radio. "Okay, coming in." A door opened and multiple feet trampled the room to the sound of beeping equipment and clattering metal. Something glass shattered, followed by a gush of profanity. "Damn it! I have to pay for that. Who put it on the edge?" Angry exclamations followed, too low to discern enunciation. Other voices laughed. "Don't worry about it. Just say she did it. She'll never know." There was murmuring assent from the rest of the room. "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring back the star of our show. Stick her now." The room settled into silence until someone began a quiet countdown. 3, 2, 1, and... A ragged breath ruined the hush, followed by spasmodic coughing. "And there she is." There was applause and whistles. "Welcome back to life." The choking had subsided, and the woman that was just begging started thanking everyone in a snivelling whine. "Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad to be alive." She started crying loudly. "Eve, everything is so beautiful." I rolled my eyes. My own death was waiting. I looked at my keycard again. Room 33. The door I'd been listening in at was 24. My destiny waited just a few doors down. As I moved closer to the death I'd reserved, I started to feel a little reserved. My mum had advised me against trying a suicide trip. She said it was a dangerous fad and you could get addicted. I told her I was just going to try a near-death experience when I turned 21, not go all the way. She didn't believe me, said a near-death would just be a gateway death that would make me crave more. As I stopped in front of my room, I wondered if she was right. Would I get addicted? The square plastic card on the door claimed to be 33. My keycard was stuck to my sweaty palm, and my hand was slightly shaking as I slid it. The door chimed and opened. The automated lights went on, and I knew my time had started. I now had an hour to kill. Pushing the door open, I expected it to creak eerily like an old horror movie, but no sound came from the well-maintained hinges. The Bittersweets was no dive hotel and had great reviews. I pondered postponing this suicide trip to request squeaking hinges. The room was non-refundable, but my first time needed to be perfect, and I realized I was stalling. "Man up," I told myself. I went into the room and closed the door behind me. I'm not sure what I expected, but this wasn't it. The hotel room looked disappointingly ordinary. There was a bed with a practical-looking bedspread in an orange and red pattern to complement the hall carpet. Fortunately, the carpet in this room was a little more tame. There was a television, a microwave, and a coffee pot on the counter near the door. On the opposite end of the room was a large mirror and another door. I expected that's where the resuscitation crew was waiting. The thought made me feel more relaxed, and I looked around for how to get this party started. On the counter in front of the microwave, I noticed a small bottle with a tag. I went over and picked it up. Made of black plastic, there was a skull and crossbones symbol printed on it in toxic green. I turned over the tag. It read, "Drink me." My reflection caught my gaze as I stood there. I looked awkward in my own skin. It hung too tight where it should be loose, and too loose where it should be tight. Hair and shiny paws were all over the place. I don't like who I am. I don't know how to be cool with people and always say the wrong things. I suspect the few friends I have probably laugh at me when I'm not around. It's painful being me. I pointed at myself in the mirror and leaned forward. "That's why I'm going to kill you," I said to my reflection. "I'm tired of you. This is going to grow you up." I popped the little bottle's top and swallowed the contents. I sat down on the bed to wait. I'd never experienced poison before, nor any kind of death, so I wasn't sure what to expect. I tried to look casual, but I wasn't sure what I should be doing while I waited. I tried not to look at the large mirror, where I was sure a crew was watching. I picked at the bedspread, tracing my finger across one of the geometric lines. I said out loud as I checked the time on my phone. 2 minutes, and I still felt nothing. I stood up and faced the mirror. "I'm not sure the poison is what," I said. Suddenly, pain knifed through my innards. I bent over double, shocked. My insides felt like they were flaying open, and bile crept up the back of my throat. The back of my eyeballs prickled with heat and felt like they were swelling. "Never mind," I gasped. I fell to my knees and barfed everywhere. There was no more quiver of anticipation in the pit of my stomach now. I was being twisted from the inside. Vicious, invisible torque was turning me into a corkscrew. Cold sweat zipped up my spine to lodge at the base of my skull, where white stars danced against my vision. I was going to die. I barfed again. Someone had entered the room. "Hey, I've been assigned to assist you if you need it. Do you need help?" I reached out my trembling hand and let it rest on the boot in front of me. "Poison, not good," I gasped. "It hurts." He laughed. "No pain, no gain." He crouched down and put an arm around me. "You are taking your time, and we want to make sure you get a full value experience. So I'm going to assist you. Time for the wrists." He laid a straight razor on the carpet in front of me. The blade was in a cardboard sleeve marked "For your hygiene." "Here you go. You picked a full plate on your first time." By now, I was crouched on the carpet in the fetal position. The pain in my gut was phenomenal. My lips were dry and my tongue overly wet. My own drool made me want to vomit again. I couldn't swallow, so I let it run down my chin. "Make it stop," I gurgled. Mum was right, this was too much pain. I should have never done this. The big man rubbed my back and made soothing noises. He picked up the razor and removed the cardboard sleeve from the blade. He grabbed my hand and turned it over, pulling it out. "Let me help you, kid," he said. "You don't have much time." My vision cleared enough to see the razor at my skin, and I tried to pull away, but my muscles felt like rotting seaweed. I was weak. The blade slid into the soft flesh of my wrist far too easily, lengthwise and not crosswise, as instructed. Time hiccuped to a stop, and I thought maybe it hadn't cut me after all. And then, blood began to bubble out. He let go of my wrist, and I pulled my bleeding limb to my chest to cradle it. It didn't hurt compared to the pain in the rest of my body. The drool from my face was mixing with the blood pooling around my knees. My insides hurt too much to care. I vomited again, adding more nasty to the mix. "Okay, we gotta get this kid strung up. He's going faster than he should," the man called loudly. He leaned back over me. "Did you come here on an empty stomach? You were supposed to eat first." "I wanted money's worth," I gasped. I was crying now. My face was wet with tears, blood, spit, and puke, and I wasn't sure which was the worst. All options were humiliating at this point. I hadn't realized death was so disgusting. There were more people in the room now, and I was being dragged into the bathroom. My vision was a haze, and all I could see were shadowy impressions. At random intervals, my sight would clear, and I'd have a surreal image snapped into my brain before it all dimmed again. Feet, faces, a door handle, and then a rope hanging from a large hook in the ceiling. I remembered. I chose hanging. No. I was full on pathetic, I know. I tried to struggle. I just wanted to lay on the floor, curled up like a snail, and die. The pain was too much. Puking hurt, not puking hurt. Everything hurt. They started stretching me out and lifting me up as a team. I tried to kick at them, but my legs were useless. I heard splashing and someone cursed. "Watch the toaster. I don't want a freebie." The rope slid across my face, smearing the muck. I was going to throw up again, held upright like this. I started dry heaving. "He's going to hurl again. Drop him, drop him." I felt the hands let go and I was swinging free. The pressure on my neck wasn't sudden as I had imagined. The hands let go in pairs, not at once. The effect was a gradual, reluctant choking. The bile came rushing up, only to find itself at an impasse. Some escaped, burning the inside of my nose as it forced its way free. The rest stayed trapped in my throat, choking me along with the tightening rope. My vision was going. I was going. And the pain ebbed to the back of my mind as I prepared to let it all go. From far away, someone yelled, "Drop him now!" And the pressure around my neck was gone. I fell free, splashing into cool water. My limbs flailed on their own accord, gravity their new master. I felt the water close over my head and I sunk. I tried to suck in a breath, but water filled my lungs. I saw the inside of the bathtub where I was now submerged with vivid detail. A pubic hair, bubbles sticking to the inside of the fiberglass, a tiny pink fiber. I tensed my muscles to flail, to fight my way to air, and then a flash burned everything, pain, regret, suffering. And I floated away in relief. Life came back with no foreplay. Breath was the first thought I remember having. It filled up the vacuum that had developed in my chest with violence. I took in too much, and my beleaguered lungs rebelled and expelled it back. I coughed spasmodically. "Welcome back," someone said. I recognized it as the voice that had helped me before. Gratitude overcame me, and I became aware that I was sobbing. I didn't care. The room applauded me, and I continued to cry. The joy at being alive eclipsed all other pain. My throbbing wrist was a mute symphony, my pulse keeping time. I was drenched, stunk of vomit, and was sore all over, but I was alive, and that became the singularly most important fact. Nothing else mattered. They lifted me onto the bed, wrapping me in blankets, while the resuscitators worked on pasting me back together. I became warm, but the heat was radiating from the love in my heart. It beat still, and I was aware at how precious that percussion really was. One day it would cease. I would cease. Medical technology wasn't yet able to keep us going indefinitely. So all I had at this moment was this moment. And it was so absolutely sweet. I vowed to cherish every precious moment I had left. I lay back and let the resuscitation crew work their magic. A few hours later, I was back on my feet and dragging through the lobby. Sore and exhausted, but exuberant with living. My clothes were as trashed as I felt, but there was no resuscitation crew for them. I had forgotten to change into my courtesy robe, and there was little the crew could do to clean off the vomit and bloodstains. I'd be a triumphant mess on the train ride home, and proud of it. I had my soda ready, and I carried it to the counter to see if there was an opener, and an opening in her social schedule. She was waiting on a client, so I leaned against the counter, pointedly, to wait. The customer looked like a dramatic type, dressed completely in gothic black attire. Her hair was teased up vintage 80s style, and as dark as her clothes. Heavy Egyptian-looking eyeliner and a large silver ankh completed her look. She had probably spent hours getting her look right for this. She glanced at me as I studied her and smiled with genuine warmth. I liked her. "First time?" I asked her. The two girls looked at each other and giggled. I felt awkward, like I was the butt of their joke. "Can just you open this?" I said, to change the subject. I handed my bottle to the honey-dipped angel behind the counter. The gothic girl put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm not laughing at you," she said, the girl in black. She looked into my eyes, and I couldn't help smiling back. "It's just that I'm here all the time. I practically work here." That made me feel better. The counter girl handed me back my drink, opened. "It was a twist top," she said. I swear she rolled her eyes at me. I decided not to ask her out after all. The other girl leaned over and read my bottle's label. "Cherry pop, to celebrate the first time with death," she said. "Appropriate." I flushed and felt very much like a man. I had died, come back, and it was awesome. I was a survivor. I was a warrior. I tipped my bottle to the ladies in what I hoped seemed a gallant gesture, took a deep swig, and turned to go. "And it won't be my last," I said, pushing the door open with my back, looking directly at the counter girl. "If you enjoyed your stay, please leave us a review online," she said. "Everything is 5 stars," I said, and I pushed my way outside to enjoy my new lease on life. And that concludes our story for today. I hope you enjoyed this reading of the Bram Stoker Award finalist book Bittersweets by Angela Yuriko Smith. I'm Ryan Ozzie Smith, and it has been a pleasure to be your host tonight. If you'd like to connect with me, join me on Twitch by searching Aussie Man Plays or click my link in the description below.